In this video, we are going to be explaining why you shouldn't overlook a dog's ear infection. Recently, we had a customer come into one of our branches and they told us a harrowing story with their dog. Now, this poor dog, a Labradoodle, a wonderful, wonderful dog, had been diagnosed with an ear infection 18 months ago. This dog owner, as we all do, went to the vet, and that vet prescribed, guess what, hypoallergenic dog food and a course of steroids. And for months and months and months, this itchiness didn't seem to disappear, didn't seem to subside. The dog kept itching and the dog kept itching, but because the dog owner didn't know any better, they just carried on and they didn't really do anything. Now, fast forward 6 months, the dog started having serious problems with one of their eardrums until, guess what? One day, that eardrum needed to be replaced. That eardrum stopped working, so the dog went deaf on one ear because the infection became too much. The problem with hypoallergenic diets, the problem with prescription dog food, is that the ingredients are very vague and the ingredients are very poor quality. If we have a dog with an allergy, or if we have a dog with a problem and we feed a dog a lot of rice, a lot of wheat, a lot of barley, a lot of corn, soy, and things unspecific like animal fats, and if we have a problem because the dog is allergic to something and we give the dog animal fats, we will not know what we are feeding the dog. If we feed the dog rice, wheat, barley, or corn, we will be feeding the dog inflammatory thing. Remember something about dog ear infections or any dermatitis or any itis. Itis means inflammation. So whenever we get a diagnosis which has itis at the end, that means that something is inflamed, and you should seek to lower the amount of inflammatory ingredients, inflammatory things we put in our dogs. So anyway, this lady came to us because the dog was still itching 18 months down the line and with one of the dog's eardrums having been removed, which is a bit ridiculous. But anyway, she came to us and she told us what she was feeding the dog. Now, when the vet has looked at this problem, they have not paid attention one iota to what the dog was eating and why the dog was eating those things. If you have an ear infection, bear in mind that carbohydrates convert into sugar. Sugar fuels any sort of infections. Things like yeast thrive off of sugar. So if we feed a dog a lot of rice, if we feed the dog wheat, barley, or corn, we will be fueling that ear infection. So what we need to do is reduce the amount of inflammatory ingredients we give the dog. Anyway, nobody had told this lady about the elimination diet in order to address possible food allergens, and nobody had told this lady about anti-inflammatory ingredients. Nobody had told this lady about omega-6s. Nobody had told this lady about the power of some of these foods, and some of these foods are now the very reason why the dog is not itching anymore, because we put the dog on a single protein food. We have drastically reduced the amount of carbohydrates the dog eats, and we have put the dog on a very good source of protein. Single protein, we have reduced the amount of carbohydrates, and the dog has, guess what, stopped itching. The dog is now off of medication and the dog is happy. A problem that started 18 months ago and resulted in multiple vet visits, thousands of pounds in vet visits, and an eardrum could have been solved with nutrition. It could have been solved with food. It hasn't been solved by supplements, and it hasn't been solved with medicines. What has been solved by is food. The power of food in your dog or cat, what you put in that bowl, really does matter. And your dog might be okay for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It might just live a very happy life on not very good food. However, if you have a problem with your dog, if your dog has a problem, if your dog has an ear infection and you leave it unattended, the consequences are pretty dire. You should pay attention to what you feed your dog. So any ear infection your dog has, you should seek alternative methods. You should seek 2 or 3 different opinions. You should do your research. Do not take anything as gospel, because vets sometimes don't know. They just prescribe blanket things and they just give blanket advice like anyone else. Each case is different and they should pay attention to you, and they should try to address a problem with your dog, and they should have a time scale as to when things are going to happen. A dog cannot be put on endless medication and a hypoallergenic food without us seeing visible results. Things need to change. If you want to shop good food, or if you want to learn about the elimination diet, you should click in the link description. We have a wonderful food blog and we have wonderful resources that'll help you understand ear infections. If your dog has an ear infection, please do not leave it. Address the problem. Check the food, check the treats, give us a follow. We will help.